Hey, everybody, this is Harriet Cammock, the host of the Faith Hour. I'm also the media maven on this app, and I'm here today to talk about this how the Nuremberg trials is a pattern of what will happen next. That's right, the tide has turned. How the Nuremberg trials is a pattern of what will happen next. And I say that with all equanimity as I look across the political landscape and I see what they're doing, what the government is doing, and what we the people are planning to do, and what we the people feel that we should do. I feel like we need to take a page out of history and look at what happened with the Nuremberg trials. And perhaps it's not a bad idea right now for states to invoke their sovereignty and to say, we're not going to accept some things from the federal government. We're not going to accept the federal government coming into our borders, into our cities, and to bring masked people who are wearing masks to take our residents and our citizens out of our states. That's where we're going. So, for all the people who feel as if they have the right because they feel they have been federalized and they feel like they have the right to march into people's homes and take people's homes, no doubt about it, there is a trial coming and it will come after this. And if I'm telling you that it is coming, it's because it is coming. Because the historians, the lawyers, the constitutional professors, the lawyers, the thought leaders, the professors, everybody is sitting down right now and taking notes. And they are making copious notes of every instance where this has happened. They're making notes of everything that the government, this administration has done from day one. They're making notes of every little thing, every dot, every I has been dotted and every T has been crossed. And they're making notes because the Nuremberg trials, let's take a page out of that book. So before we begin, let me tell you a little bit about who I am. I'm Harriet Cammock. I'm an author and speaker. I'm also the founder of the Exodus Foundation, in addition to which I'm just a citizen just like you, watching all of this just going to pot and not liking 1 minute of it and wondering at which time we have already come to the conclusion that the government intends to persecute every one of us. The government intends to lock us all up. The government intends to destroy the country totally so they can ride off into the sunset on some jet that they got from a foreign power who was a terrorist and who was on the terrorist watch list, or no doubt. But the government, the people running the government, they don't care about any of that. What they care about is themselves. So let me just help you out how this has happened before, because everything has a pattern. If you want to know what is going to happen, you need only look back at history and see what happened previously. So the Nuremberg trials, how did this happen? So we are well aware that history tells us that the Nazis were atrocious and they on people and across Europe. They controlled and occupied most of Europe. Between 1939 and 1945, Nazi Germany invaded many countries in Europe. They killed 27 million Soviet citizens, in addition to 6 million Jews they put into gas ovens on the Holocaust. And I know this is a trigger warning. I am very sorry. I am terribly sorry, but I got to talk about this. I'm so sorry. It's something I will never forget. Just like I don't forget the Atlantic slave trade, I also don't forget the Holocaust. Just like I don't forget that slavery existed in America for 245 years, I don't forget the Holocaust. Just like I don't forget that Jim Crow was for 100 years in America, I don't forget the Holocaust. Just like I don't forget that civil rights was for 60 years, I don't forget the Holocaust. We cannot afford to ever forget the evil of history because evil is cyclical and evil resurrects itself. You would not believe that between 1939, between 1941, 1946, 1945, and 1946, would you believe the United States, along with the United Kingdom, the Russia, the USSR, and France got together to have a military trial of the Germans who had done these atrocities? Would you believe that? You would not believe that, would you? Yes, they did. It was called the International Military Tribunal. And here's the thing about it that I found interesting. One of the interesting things about that was the United Kingdom believed in summary executions. They believed that all Germans should just be killed. But they didn't do that. America prevailed and said, no, let's have a legitimate trial and find legitimate reasons to say that they waged war against people. But England, the United Kingdom, was just like, why don't we just kill them all, right? The Soviet Union lost 27 million people as a result of the occupation. That was like 1/7 of their total population. So they were not having fun with that. And of course, France was occupied by Germany. So the trial was not just to convict the defendants, but to assemble evidence, but to put together evidence that the Nazis, that the Germans conducted horrible atrocities on people across Europe so that evil will not rise up again in the land. The Nuremberg trials happened in Germany between October 1945 and 1946. So the question really is, what does that tell us? How does that inform us going forward? This is how I feel. The United States is a nation of many states. Each state is its own sovereign nation, right? So each state has its own governor, has its own Supreme Court, has its own lower courts, has its own circuit court. Each state has its own system of laws and tax collection. So each state literally is a sovereign nation. Do you realize that it is going to happen right here where they may not secede from the union, but what they are going to do is to say the federal government can't enter the state's borders. You can't come into our cities. You can't come into our state and wreak havoc on our residents and the citizens who live in our states. That is coming. We are reluctant to do it now because we don't want to start a civil war. But it is coming to the time where the federal government is run by sycophants who are so ridiculously one-track minded that all they see is ultimate power to control the United States, that they can't think straight. We cannot afford for them to control how we live and how the rest of us live. So each state is getting to the point where they're going to say, we can't have them come in. And I'm talking about ICE, the Immigration and Control and Enforcement Unit. They're not immigration people. They're not controlling and looking for people. They're locking up American citizens. Children born in America are American citizens. People who live here, they went into a building in Chicago that was occupied by homeless people and took American citizens to put in detention camps. This is Nazism, whether you want to call it that or not. And it is perpetrated by people in the federal government, people who are backing up people in the government, by a man named Peter Thiel who comes from Germany, who believes that he has a right to control whom he sleeps with. By the way, he does not sleep with women. So he believes that he should do whatever he did, right? Do you see what I'm saying? And these people are professing to be Christians. But according to the Bible, you're not supposed to have sex with men. So how are you a Christian, but you're having sex with men and declare you have a husband? But you're saying that you're a Christian going around the world, Mr. Peter Thiel, going around the world, Mr. Peter Thiel, yes, going around the world telling people about the Antichrist, but he lives with a man. Doesn't the Bible say you shouldn't do that? Do you see the hypocrisy? Do you see what we're talking about? But I digress. I must admit, I digress right there. So what I am seeing is a pattern has been established. In last week, we talked about revenge politics and how they have weaponized the federal government. They've used the power of the military, right? They have used the power of the economy to impose tariffs on people, to impose tariffs. They're going into cities and invading cities that they think are controlled by, according to them, leftists and liberals. Who are you calling leftists and liberals? What are you then? You're right-wingers who believe in eugenics? Is that who you are? You're people who believe that the only people who should be on the planet are people who look like you? What the hell? What in the cluster is you? Do you see what I'm saying, people? It is crazy. These are the sycophants running the government. They have no thought. They do not think long term. They have no exit strategy. I don't even know, honestly, if they have an exit strategy for themselves. I don't think so. Because you know what you and I know? When this all settles down and MAGA turns on them, because they will, it's only a matter of time. When MAGA turns on them, there's going to be a trial, and it's going to be right here in the US because this is where the atrocities are being committed. So, who is behind the government right now? This is why it's important. We've been talking about, you've heard Bernie Sanders talk about Citizens United and how we should end Citizens United. Now you understand why. Because these are the people, the laws that were passed 40 years ago by Reagan and his sycophants and his camaraderie, his friends, to ensure that they always had a steady supply of money to run political campaigns. Those laws favor people, anybody who has an agenda. You can give money to create the candidate of your choice. So here we are, we have a group of people now who want what they want. So their domination, you have Peter Thiel, then you have the guy from South Africa, right? Their goal is to control the USA. That's what they want. They want to control American power. Why? I don't know. I don't know if because American power looks shiny and glittery, but maybe it is more intrinsic. America talks about democracy. America talks about freedom of the individual. America promotes people. Those people would not be rich as they are if they had not come to America. But know that they're here. They want to control American government. They want to be near the CIA. They want to have control of the FBI. It's time to throw them out. It's time to get rid of them. Come on, where's the American military? Are you sitting back and letting this happen for real? I just want to ask this question. You really are sitting back and letting them dismantle our democracy and dismantle our system. And you are sitting back. Where is the American military? Are you not going to do anything? You're literally letting them run ramshod right up through our democracy. And you're making the rest of the world wonder if we're all asleep all night long. Are we just all just playing with ourselves or what? What are you all doing? You don't have a plan? You're not going to do something? You're just going to sit there and let people like Peter Thiel tell the Vice President of the United States what to do and send ICE to come into American citizens. Look, if they wanted to find people who were here undocumented, they could have found those people. They have a list, right? They do have a list. They know exactly who those people are, so they could find them if they wanted those people. But that was never their plan. Their plan was to do what? You know it, instill fear and prove that they have control of the government. So whatever they tell you to do, you do. So if they come and tell us, oh, we're going to cancel all your passports and we're going to issue you new passports if we like you, that's what they're going to do? Are you going to wait for that at the United States military? Are you going to sit there and wait for that? Because I had a dream last night. Are you going to wait for that? And hear me out. It's not that I don't believe in marches. Maybe they know something I don't know. The people who are organizing these marches, maybe they know something I don't know. Maybe they think this time they can appeal to Humpty Dumpty's sense of, he likes to be popular and likes to think everyone likes him. I don't believe that is what is going to work, because the people who are behind Humpty Dumpty, they think different, okay? And what they're thinking is that they want ultimate control by any choice. So if they have to use whatever tools and levers of power that they have access to, that is exactly what they're going to do. So again, I'm asking the United States military, how long are you going to sit back and let this continue? Are you just still going to sit back and let people like them run around and tell you what to do? Because pretty soon that's what's going to happen. Nothing they want more than have a piece of paper signed by Humpty Dumpty that they can come to you and tell you what they're going to do. You really, really, really are going to let it go like that? You really, really, really going to let it go like that? I just want to know. So all I have to tell the people who are running around in Chicago and Portland and running around in LA and look like they want to come to another city to do that, the Nuremberg trials are a historical fact. They will happen. It will happen again. I don't know that it will be called Nuremberg, but they will find you. Just like facial recognition software exists that can identify me, there is facial recognition software that can remove the masks and they can track you. Believe it or not, they're currently tracking every one of those vehicles that moved into cities and that pulled people and took people out. They're tracking, and when this is over, they're coming after you. They're coming after your families, your mama, your grandmama, your great great grandmama in her grave. They're coming for all of you who perpetrated this atrocious evil. Anyone who has read history knows that history tends to repeat itself. Unfortunately, what none of us saw coming from 100 miles away is that Nazism could ever happen in America. After all, America was right there in World War II, liberating Europe, sending help to Europe. So now we Europeans are like, that's happening in America. They let that happen. Yes. You know why? Because for a number of reasons. One of which is that white people here in America, especially white people who are not millionaires and billionaires, got the fine idea that the reason they were not millionaires and billionaires is because of people like me, is because of the illegals who are coming in. And they believed it, hook, line, and sinker. They went right straight up in it as the politicians told them. It never occurred to them to engage their critical thinking skills and say, maybe this was as a result of public policy that caused this. Nope. They believed it hook, line, and sinker. And so here comes a guy who tells them exactly what they want to hear. Oh, when I win, I'm going to reverse everything, and suddenly you're going to be sailing back on the lake, and you're going to be sailing beside me in my yacht. And they believed it because they wanted to believe it. That's why they believed it. And essentially, they looked at this man, and they are not looking at his money. Because you know who he's in bed with? He's not in bed with people who are white. He took a jet from Qatar. You see who he's in bed with? So money to him is the color of money. It was never about being white. So MAGA was played. If you're listening to this, you should feel bad about yourself because we warned you. We told you that this was going to happen. But you hated people like me. You hated voices like mine who were telling you the truth. And so you fell for a story that was spun by evil. Evil was characterized and looked like you. Evil looked like you, smiled like you, combed its hair like you. Evil even told you that something is wrong with a man sleeping with a man, but behind closed doors, they're sleeping with men. Peter Thiel is out and proud. He has a husband, but he's going around telling you that the Antichrist has come. So they start spreading stories about the rapture to make you, the rapture is coming. Are you all dumb or not? Are you reading the real Bible or not? Or are you still letting them dictate to you? So if they come to you and say they're going to make some Kool-Aid and you should all line up and drink it, you're going to drink it just because they tell you to? Where's your critical thinking skills? MAGA, put your thinking skills on. They're ripping and raving your country and destroying the country at the same time. The very country that you like to say you're the only ones who are American and you're the only ones who are proud and you're the only ones who wave the flag. What did we all tell you about that? There is a place for loving your country. Nobody cries when the national anthem is being sung like Harriet. But do you see me out there acting all crazy and chasing people out of the country? Do you see me hating on people? You don't think that I have a stake here, that my ancestors worked their asses off without getting paid and lived here? Don't you think my family members worked and paid taxes into the system? You don't think I believe that? You don't think I worked and put my taxes into the system so that when the time comes, I can have Social Security too? By the way, Mr. President, where's my Social Security? You better make sure it's there when I'm ready for it, because I sure worked my ass off for that. Do you see what I'm talking about? When I tell you it's a pattern, it's a pattern. And I want to tell you the Nuremberg trials, when there was this supreme trial, the big one. And the verdict was about plotting and waging aggressive war, right? And most of the people, most of the Nazis, I made a note of it. There were 22 leaders of former German hierarchy, but there were 6 German organizations. So I have a word for some of you organizations out there who are supporting this version of Nazism in American style Nazism. Your time is coming. It's coming. It's coming for you too. So don't think you're going to be able to just disappear and go away and all of a sudden put on a cloak like, I don't know what we were all going through. They're coming for you. And they're going to make sure that this never happens again. Do you hear what I'm saying? Because that's what happened in Germany at the same time. I say this all the time. Evil does not happen in a vacuum. Evil also happens when we turn our backs to it. We see something crazy going on and we don't do anything about it. It doesn't mean that we have to go put on a superhuman cape and go be a superstar or whatever, or a superhero. It means that we must stand up and speak up. And if all of us, you cannot, Americans, sit back right now and not speak up. Everybody has a megaphone in your hands. It's called a phone. Start speaking up. That is the greatest thing that will happen. If you take to the streets, they're going to try to control how you go in the streets. But speak up. Start taking up your megaphone and speak up. Start calling out this foolishness, that this is wicked and atrocious what they're doing to people. It is not human and it is not humane. I don't care if they're here undocumented or illegally. I don't care about that. They're human beings and nobody should be mistreated like that. Going after your political enemies because you have a different ideology. Are you nuts or are you nutter? I'm speaking to you MAGA folks. Are you nuts? Because we disagree politically? And fundamentally, we all agree on freedom of the individual. So because you believe in this foolishness of according to you, you believe in big government, well, you sure are getting big government right now, aren't you? Big government telling businesses, American businesses, how to run themselves. I thought Reagan and Bush and all those guys used to talk about against stuff like that the government should not be telling private businesses how to run itself. You wanted big government? You sure got big government. You wanted big government? They put an immigrant in charge of your Social Security data, so now you're getting less Social Security. How you like them apples? You wanted big government. You got big government. That's what you voted for. That's what you wanted. You wouldn't listen to people like me. In fact, you called me all kinds of names on Twitter. You said all kinds of stuff. And the rest of us had to sit back and really wonder if you really were going to go to the polls and put your ex beside that man's name, knowing he was going to wreak havoc on your lives. And you did. Much to the disbelief, the collective disbelief of everybody who has common sense. And then you have the nerve to sit there, the royal nerve. Yes, you call yourselves Christians, and you have the nerve to sit there and call everybody else who disagrees with you a liberal because we believe in freedom, because we believe in freedom of expression. So what's going to happen when they take away your ability to complain against them? You remember what happened to their own guy whom they killed out in Utah? Anybody who spoke up against it, they want to lock up people for that. Don't you see that that's where it all begins? So what if you disagree with it? Say in another month or two, you start sitting there while you're sitting there eating your roadkill and smoking your meth, and you start thinking about that and you start having different opinions about it. What are you going to do? Can you express yourself? Will you feel free enough to express yourself? I think some of us are sitting back and watching you perish, knowing that this was coming. See, we already prepared our minds for it. But watching you go through it because you refuse to believe. And let me just say this. Let me just say this while I'm on a rant. Let me just say this. Some of you MAGA people, you deserve this. You know why? When the economy started changing and they went to globalization, remember that back in the 90s? Yeah, when globalization was this thing. How come you all didn't demonstrate at that time? Why didn't you all speak up? That's when they decided to take the money out of running companies in America and moving it to other parts of the world so that they can make more money. That's the real globalization, isn't it? It didn't occur to you then to speak up? Why didn't you speak up then? You constantly voted for politicians who continued to do what? To encourage American businesses to go overseas where labor is cheaper so that you, American workers, would not have jobs. Here's what happened. For the rest of us, we saw that and we retooled ourselves. We went back to school, we got degrees, we got trades, we learned to do different things to survive. You did not. You stayed the same way and expected that the color of your skin was what was going to dictate how you survived. You insisted that the color of your skin was supposed to save you. The rest of us, we went back and got degrees, we got certifications in other fields, we relearned new things and moved on because there was no point in fighting it, right? You guys did not. So you got stuck. And over time, you got more and more stuck because public policy got worse and worse and worse. And you woke up one day and you are nothing, or you feel like you're nothing. And the politician tells you that it's the immigrant who is working as a cook, who is earning $7 an hour or $8 an hour, working as a cook, working as a dishwasher, picking fruits in the fields. I'm laughing at the ludicrousness of it all. You thought that those are the people who are wrong? So you said, of course, get them out of here. Get them. I'll go get them. And now look, you know who they're going to put in the fields? You. The workforce has to come from somewhere. How you like them apples? The Nuremberg trials is a pattern for what is to come. I feel like some states need to now start saying, I am a sovereign state. I have my own leadership. I pay my own taxes. I collect my own taxes. And I am not going to pay any taxes into the federal government. If the federal government is going to weaponize itself and send in things that are not real, that are not true, that violate the Constitution, I think it's time for some states to start saying that. Don't you think so? And make no doubt about it, they're currently making a note of all the states, of all the ICE folks who are coming in, and all this wickedness. And I'm telling you, the trials are coming. All the people who own private prisons and detention camps, because that's what this is designed to do. Rounding up people to put them in detention camps means that what? Somebody is getting paid, right? Okay, that's right. All those flights to drop people off in other countries, somebody is getting paid. So when the trials start, it's going to expose, it's going to be a long trail right back to who owns what detention camps, who signed the orders, who sent them to detention camps, and who collected the checks. And when that starts, God have mercy on all of you, because I know we won't. I am not going to have any mercy on none of you all, because you caused this. You caused this. And then there are the other group of you who chose not to go to vote. So your apathy is what has also placed us in this. The apathetic voter who thought you had the luxury of sitting back and not voting, even when we told you that this was an important election. Every election is important. In the next couple of weeks in early on November, on Super Tuesday, there will be local elections in your state, in your county, in your city. Go out and vote. Go register and vote. It's not too late. Every vote counts, and every time you get to exercise your right to vote is a win for democracy. Go out and vote. Stop sitting back and saying you're not voting because you expect the person you're voting to bring you a plate of food. Did you not read the Bible? What did Jesus say? You teach a man to fish and you feed him for life. But if you give him a plate of food now, you have to feed him for the rest of his life and your life. What are we not learning here? What are we not doing? I'm telling you right now, I just feel like this is coming. And part of why the Nuremberg trials happened, that the International Military Tribunal made up of the Allies, remember who they are, the United States, the United Kingdom, who wanted to just execute everybody, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, now called Russia, has always been Russia, and France, what they said was they wanted to get this part. It was the government's treatment of its own citizens. The atrocious way in which the government of Germany treated its own citizens was what led to the Nuremberg trials. By this time, most of the Nazis and the people in Germany who had caused this. Nazism didn't happen in a vacuum. By now, you must realize that, right? It wasn't just Hitler and his leaders who did that, was it? What about the rich people? Because they didn't end up in the camps, did they? The people who ended up in the camps were the Jews. That's whom they blamed because they were the immigrants. So they picked on them and said it's their fault why Germany didn't have any money. It was never their fault. It was the rich people in Germany and the government who had the bad public policy. It's the same thing we're seeing right now. The rich people in America and the government with the bad public policy is what has caused the economic distress. But you blame a helpless group of people and say it's their fault. And now here we are. So I want you to remember, if you don't see my face again, if you never hear my voice again, because y'all don't like folks like me, right? People have their preferences and their choices, and our implicit biases do kick in. We don't like certain people who look a certain way. Wink, wink. We don't like certain people who sound different from us. Our implicit biases kick in. So you may never hear me again. But if you don't, just remember that history is a continuum. The human life cycle is a continuum. Civilizations come and go and change. Rulers come and go. Rulers don't stay long, and especially the wicked ones, they don't usually last for a long time. I'm sorry. Right? And because of that, this is going to change. And when it does change, the Nuremberg trials is the pattern that you need to follow because it is coming. They're going to get these folks. It was only for a short time, but it was effective. And the goal of it was to make sure that this evil never happened in the world again. Isn't it ironic that it happened right in the center of the very country that fought and gave more for it not to happen? Isn't it? Mind-blowing. How does that happen? Because we let it. We sat back on our rumpuses, on our glorified rumpuses, and we let it happen. We took things for granted. We didn't stand up and question. And those of us who stood up and questioned, we were called leftists and liberals. Those of us who took a bullhorn and was shouting from the mountaintops, you called us, you alienated us and called us leftists and liberals when the real enemy was standing back, laughing in your face, giving you the Kool-Aid to drink, and telling you that the problem is the immigrant. The problem is the dishwasher in the restaurant who earns minimum wage. The problem is the fruit picker in the fields who earns minimum wage and earns $20 a day. That is the problem. And you believed it, hook, line, and sinker. And now here you are, wondering if come January you will have a country and freedoms. I don't even worry about January. January is too far. I think about, will tomorrow be the day I wake up and we don't have any freedom? That's what I think about. So I feel like it's time for states to start invoking their sovereignty and say, we're not going to accept that. Just like some states say they don't want daylight saving time. It's the same way some states now can say, I don't want that. I don't want you to come to my state and pull people out of their homes. I think states, and we want to know the names and get a list of the people who call themselves ICE because they're rounding up American citizens, and we want to know who those people are. Round them up, get them ready, because the Nuremberg trials, according to the International Military Tribunal, was what? Was war crimes and crimes against humanity. According to the IMT at the time, government's treatment of its own citizens. Can I just ask you a question? What are you going to say? What will history say about this government's treatment of its own citizens? That you let two immigrants to come in and control the U.S. government. Where is the U.S. military? You let people come in to control the government and dictate to you. I thought you were the badass. I thought you were badass. For years, I always thought you would defend us. Where is the U.S. military right now? You let these people come in while they're throwing out other immigrants because they're poor and broke and don't have any money. You let the rich ones in who are trying to control. What a joke. I want to see you flex your muscles and show up for the American people. Just like we value you, you come in and value us. Show us that you value democracy by showing up and get these people together. Because we're headed straight for disaster. I had a dream last night. We headed for something. You better fix this and fix it now. Because the Nuremberg trials will be a joke compared to what is coming next. Because it's going to happen. Because people are taking notes and it's not just going to stop. I said this before and I'm going to say it again. There are over 300 million of us. Good luck. Be blessed.